Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make chocolate ganache, which is basically just a mixture of chocolate and heavy cream. So what we need to do first is to take 8 ounces, that's 230 grams of your favorite semi-sweet or bittersweet chocolate, and finely chop that and then put it in a heat-proof bowl. And then you need to take 3/4 of a cup, that's 180 milliliters of heavy whipping cream, that's also called double cream, and 2 tablespoons, that's 28 grams of butter, and just heat that until boiling. Now I have done that already in the microwave, but you could also do it just in a small saucepan on the stove. So then what I'm just going to do is pour the heavy cream over the chocolate, and finely chop your chocolate so that it melts easily into the cream. Okay. And normally just let that sit for a couple minutes, start melting, but what we'll do is just start doing it. And just stir it gently, because you don't want to get any air incorporated into this. So we don't want any bubbles in our finished ganache. So just gently stir it. Now heavy cream is cream with a 35 to 40% butterfat content. So that's what you should buy. And organic heavy cream has a lot more flavor than just a regular one, so if you can find that. And use a chocolate, either a semi-sweet or a bittersweet, that you enjoy just eating out of hand, because there's only, this is dominant, chocolate is the dominant flavor here, so you want to make sure you like the chocolate. So as you can see, I'm just slowly stirring it. I don't want to get a lot of air. And we're going to use this to cover a cake. If you left it at room temperature for like quite a few hours, it would thicken up, and then you could just spread it on a cake, use it as a cake layer, like in between. It'd be quite thick. If you put it in the fridge and let it firm till it's quite solid, you can make truffles out of it. If you had extra left over, and you could store it in the refrigerator, covered for a week, and then you could just reheat gently over a saucepan of simmering water to make it fluid again. So there we go. So what I'm going to add is 1 tablespoon of either brandy, cognac. You could use rum or, Kahlua, all different flavorings. If you don't want to use alcohol, you could just leave it out and just just use it without. Or you could add maybe a little vanilla if you'd like that. So what I'm going to show you how to cover with ganache is the chocolate torte. This is the chocolate torte. There's a recipe on the site along with the video how to make it. And I have turned it upside down so that the bottom is now the top, so it's a nice flat surface. But a torte it has rough sides and top, and there's little crumbs, as you can see. I'm brushing them off. So what I'm going to do with this is put on what you call a crumb coat. And that's just a thin layer of the ganache. And not only does that seal in all the crumbs, but it also gives a nice surface for the rest of the ganache when we go to cover it. So I'm just going to put some on top. And then you could just use a spoon, or I'm going to use this flat edge spatula. I'm just going to put a thin layer. Now this amount of ganache that we made will cover a 9-inch cake, which is 23 centimeters, which is the size of this torte. You'd probably do a double layer cake if you have one, because normally when I cover this torte, I'll have a little left over. And what I normally do is just make some truffles, and then I can decorate the top of the torte with the truffles, which I will show you. I'm just going to Now, if your kitchen is warm, I would put this, just pop this in the fridge for about 5-10 minutes, just until the chocolate has set. But because my kitchen is quite cool this morning, I think we can just go ahead and do it right away. Now, what I'm going to do is take your torte and put it on a wire rack, and then place the wire rack on a large baking sheet like this. Because when we pour the ganache over top, it's going to drip down the sides. And so we don't want it all over our counter. So this way we can just scoop it up and reuse the ganache that drips down. So I'm just going to give this a quick stir. As you can see, it's just beautiful, so nice and shiny. So what you do is pour it into the center, like this. Now this amount of ganache is more than enough for a thin layer cake like this. Okay, and then I'm going to use a flat edge spatula, or you could use like this, or even the spoon. We're going to do big strokes from the center out, and I'm just going to push the ganache over the sides. See, it drips down. Okay. You don't want to handle it too much because we want it to stay shiny. Now, if I had some spots that I wasn't happy with, and maybe they were still exposed, I could just take some of the ganache that's on the baking sheet and just kind of fill in those. So just go around, check your sides. Fix up what you need to do. And there, okay. Now you need to let this sit on the wire rack until it's set. But I do like to lift take a large metal spatula or a rubber spatula and just kind of lift it so that the chocolate doesn't stick, because there is some chocolate on the baking sheet and you don't want it to stick and then it's hard. So I'm just going to lift that like that, and then I'm just going to leave it to set to room temperature before covering and storing. Now, you can see I have all this ganache onto the sheet. So what you can do is just gather all that up, put it through a wire strainer to get rid of any crumbs, and then put it in the fridge and chill it until firm. And then what I do is I make little truffles, which I have done here already, and just roll them into little balls, and then I roll them in cocoa powder. And then you can just decorate the top. Now normally you would let that set first before decorating, but in the interest of time, I'll just... And then you can just pile them in the center or do what I'm doing here and just decorate the outside. And that's it. Until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.